Hello. Lewis didn't like summer that much. It was way too hot. He much preferred the autumn or even a bright, frosty day in winter. So it's a bit surprising that he uses summer so much in his images of heaven. And we'll come to that. It's no longer winter, of course, in Lantern Waste. The White Witch's spell has long been broken. Things are rather different in Narnia. But in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, when Lucy first entered Narnia through the wardrobe, it's a land held under a very wintry enchantment indeed. And she meets the faun, Mr. Tumnus, and he takes her home for tea. And over tea, he tells her lots of stories of what Narnia used to be like before the enchantment in the good old days. And it included stories of the summertime, midnight dances in the forest, and times when Bacchus would visit and the streams would run with wine instead of water, and the whole forest would make merry for weeks on end. The idyllic time was during summer. Then Prince Caspian, the next story, takes place, as a lot of the stories do, in the summer. And the children have just broken up from school for the summer holidays in this world, and they end up at the beach on a lovely summer's day in Narnia. And it seems to be late summer there, with apples on the trees. Later there are summery moonlit nights in the woods. And the young Caspian's on the run from his evil uncle Miraz, who rules Narnia tyrannically. And he discovers the old Narnia in hiding. And he's taken on a journey visiting various creatures, the bulgy bears, Patatwig the squirrel, and Reepicheep the mouse, amongst others. And it's all on a fine summer morning. And when at last Narnia is liberated, Bacchus, the god of wine and fertility and growth and who knows what else, is turned up. There are vines spreading everywhere, and they feast on the choicest grapes, which are suddenly everywhere. They even get in Lucy's hair. At a school where Miss Prizzle is teaching history, the teacher's desk becomes a rose bush. There's a picture of deliverance from oppression for Gwendolen, the school pupil. And it all ends in feasting under the moon round a fire which roared as a woodland bonfire on midsummer night ought to do. And this is free Narnia, full of joyousness and wildness and an immense, strange beauty. Ancient wrongs are put right, and it's partly return to Eden, or a foretaste of the paradise to come. At the beginning of The Silver Chair, it's a dull autumn day when Jill Pole and Eustace flee from school bullies through a gate in the wall, and they find themselves suddenly on Aslan's mountain. And there it's like a beautiful June day with blazing sunshine and blue sky and birds singing loudly. Then down in Narnia, when they get there, it's gloomy autumn again. And as they go on their quest with Puddleglum to rescue Prince Rilian, it gets progressively more wintry. And when they arrive back in Narnia, mission accomplished, they're in time to see the great snow dance, which happens every year on the first moonlit night when there's snow on the ground. But before long, they're whisked back to Aslan's mountain again, and there it's still bathed in midsummer sunshine. It seems as if summer is the weather of heaven in the book. Sunlight, of course, is very important in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, as the ship's company sail closer and closer to Aslan's country, beyond the furthest edge of the world. And it's summertime at the start, when Lucy and Edmund and Eustace set out with King Caspian on a quest to find 7 missing lords of Narnia. Eustace starts his diary on the 7th of August. And they go through many dangers, toils and snares on various islands. It's Reepicheep's heart's desire to sail as far as Aslan's country, which for us is the equivalent of heaven. And by the time they get to Ramandu's island, the retired star, very close to Aslan's country, it must be at least the middle of October. But from here on, it's actually much more like the heat of summer. As the ship ploughs through the last sea towards its final goal, the white lilies of the Silver Sea are blooming out to the horizon, and the sun shines very much brighter and bigger than usual. Only the sweet sea water, which is like drinkable light, Reepicheep says, enables them to bear it, until at last they can look right through the heart of the shining sun, beyond their world, to a glimpse of Aslan's land. When Edmund and Lucy wade ashore, the water is warm, and the lamb on the shore, who is Aslan, who is Christ, is brightest of all. In the last battle, it's a very chilly day in early spring at Cauldron Pool when the story starts. The leaves on the trees are only just beginning to come out, and the first primroses are blossoming as Jill and Eustace help King Tyrion fight against the powers of evil in the final Narnia story. Eventually they pass through the stable door in Lantern Waste and find themselves in the new Narnia, the real Narnia. And there, with the deep blue sky and the gentle breeze, it seems to Tyrion like a day in early summer, maybe June. There's fruit on the trees too, which makes him think it must be autumn. It's like the best of summer and the best of autumn rolled into one. And what fruit it is, indescribably beautiful, quite a feature of the new earth. And when the old Narnia finally dies and its sun is put out and darkness and ice overwhelm it. But on this side of the stable door, it's like a summer morning. The new, real Cauldron Pool sparkles in warm sunshine. In his novel The Great Divorce, Lewis imagines a busload of people on a kind of day trip from hell to the outskirts of heaven. And when the narrator gets out of the bus, the light and coolness that drenched me were like those of summer morning, he says. There are daisies, there are apples, there are lilies. It's got to be summertime in heaven. In an essay, The Grand Miracle in God in the Dock, Lewis uses the image of winter turning into summer to convey the blessings of Christ's resurrection. He says miracles are the first fruits of that cosmic summer which is presently coming on. Christ has risen, and so we shall rise. The resurrection has happened, and everything flows from that. Winter's been dealt a fatal blow. Summer is a-coming in, and the miracles are the first sign of it. So the sight of a crocus in February, for instance, means that spring and summer are on the way. And it's the same with the resurrection. We know what's coming on behind. And we have a choice, Lewis says. We can embrace that and live in it, or not. He says we have the power either of withstanding the spring and sinking back into the cosmic winter, or of going on into those high midsummer pomps in which our leader, the Son of Man, already dwells, and to which he's calling us. It remains with us to follow or not, to die in this winter, or go on into that spring and that summer. So Lewis, you see, uses summer here as an image of all the great good that is to come to God's people. But one of the most fascinating uses of summer in Lewis is in that hideous strength, last in the Cosmic trilogy. There's been some particularly wild autumn weather dipping into winter, and in the kitchen of the manor at St Anne's on the Hill, they're gathered towards the end of the book, with the shutters closed fast and leaning round the fire. One by one, the Oiasi, or archangels of the planets, descend upon the blue room upstairs. And when the Oasa of Perilandra, the planet Venus, descends, it becomes particularly warm in the kitchen. The logs on the fire smell particularly sweet, like incense, like all the perfumes of Arabia. The faces of the older couple no longer look old. They just look mature, like ripe fields in August, serene and golden with the tranquility of fulfilled desire. A sort of brightness flows from another couple. They seem almost like gods, and about them dance grave and ardent spirits. These are just ordinary people down in the kitchen. It's a visionary moment. Then upstairs, in the blue room, also Ransom and Merlin felt about this time that the temperature had risen. The windows, they did not see how or when, had swung open. At their opening, the temperature did not drop, for it was from without that the warmth came. Through the bare branches, across the ground, which was once more stiffening with frost, a summer breeze was blowing into the room, but the breeze of such a summer as England never has. Laden like heavy barges that glide nearly gunwale under, laden so heavily you would have thought it could not move, laden with ponderous fragrance of night-scented flowers, sticky gums, groves that drop odours, and with cool savour of midnight fruit, it stirred the curtains, it lifted a letter that lay on the table, it lifted the hair which had a moment before been plastered on Merlin's forehead. The room was rocking. They were afloat. Tears ran down Ransom's cheeks. He alone knew from what seas and what islands that breeze blew. Both the humans trembled, Merlin because he did not know what was coming, Ransom because he knew. And now it came. It was fiery, sharp, bright and ruthless, ready to kill, ready to die, outspeeding light. It was charity. Not as mortals imagine it, not even as it has been humanized for them since the incarnation of the Word, but the translunary virtue fallen upon them direct from the third heaven, unmitigated. They were blinded, scorched, deafened. They thought it would burn their bones. They could not bear that it should continue. They could not bear that it should cease. So Perelandra, triumphant among planets, whom men call Venus, came and was with them in the room. This is heavenly love, the virtue of love personified come down, and it's summer, even though it's winter. In the last chapter of the story, everything is white with snow, but at the manor, love is in the air. Mr. Bultitude the bear has somehow found a she-bear, and they're creating mayhem in the kitchen. Baron Corvo the jackdaw has found himself a partner on the window ledge. What a delicious night, says Mrs. Dimble, for as the curtain swelled and lifted over the open window, all the freshness of a midsummer night seemed to be blowing into the room. The mayor has found a stallion. 2 bats flicker together over the candles. The mice are getting busy behind the wainscot. It's like a night in July, Ransom says. It's nearly midnight, and yet all the birds are singing, and all the animals have been liberated from the laboratory down the road, and they converge on the manor. And the elephants are dancing in the flower beds. How ceremonial they are. It's like a minuet of giants. They are the liberated prisoners from Belbury, said the director. She comes more near the earth than she was wont to make earth sane. Perelandra is all about us, and man is no longer isolated. We are now as we ought to be, between the angels who are our elder brothers, and the beasts who are our jesters, servants, and playfellows. The married couple, Mark and Jane, that much of the story has followed, are reunited. They both had visions of Venus, of love. And for Jane, at least, it had suddenly become ridiculously hot for the time of year, and there were red roses and honeysuckle and huge lilies spreading through the room in the lodge at the edge of the garden where she was. This supernatural summer is the weather of love, of heavenly love in Lewis.